Hello there, I'm Black White News, and I was really kind of investigating why a lot of women in particular want to leave relationships when they're later in life. And so I decided to do this video on it. There's a quiet question being asked more and more these days, often in hushed tones, sometimes with disbelief, sometimes with judgment, and sometimes with a kind of aching recognition. The question is this: why now? Why after 30, 40, sometimes 50 years together would a woman suddenly decide she can't do it anymore? Why leave when the house is paid off, the children are grown, the partner is familiar, dependable, maybe even kind in his own way? Why walk away when from the outside it looks as though she's finally earned the right to rest? And yet she does. Or she wants to, or she's thinking about it quietly late at night when no one is asking her to explain herself. To understand this, we have to let go of the idea that these women are throwing something away. Most of them are not impulsive. They are not naive about the cost. They know exactly what they're risking, financially, socially, emotionally. They've been managing risk for their entire adult lives. What's happening is something far less dramatic on the surface, but far more profound underneath. What's happening is that endurance is running out. Many of these women began their relationships very young, sometimes in their teens, sometimes in their early 20s. They grew up inside partnership. They learned who they were in relation to someone else's needs, moods, ambitions, or expectations. Love for them was not just affection, it was accommodation, it was flexibility, it was learning how not to rock the boat. And for decades that worked, or at least it worked well enough. They raised children, supported careers, kept households running, smoothed over rough patches, forgave things that hurt deeply because there was no space, practical or emotional, to fall apart. Survival required continuity. You don't always have the luxury of reckoning with betrayal or disappointment when dinner still needs to be made and bills still need to be paid. So pain was postponed, anger was swallowed, questions like, what do I want? Or is this enough for me? Were set aside in favour of more urgent ones like, how do we keep this going? But postponed pain does not disappear, it waits. And then something shifts. It often happens quietly. The children leave home, work slows down or ends, a parent dies, a body changes, a birthday arrives with a number that feels louder than the others. Time suddenly doesn't stretch forward endlessly anymore. It feels finite, precious, counted. And with that comes a startling realization that this is it. This is the life I'm living. At that point, tolerance changes. What once felt manageable begins to feel intolerable, not because the partner has suddenly become worse, but because she has become more awake. Many women in later life are not leaving because something new happened. They're leaving because something old can no longer be carried. Old betrayals resurface, not as ancient history, but as unresolved injury. Not because they happened yesterday, but because they were never truly repaired. When a woman brings up infidelity from decades ago, she's not saying, you hurt me then. She's saying, I never felt safe again, and I've learned to live with that until I couldn't. What looks like dredging up the past is often the present finally catching up. There's also grief in this stage, grief for the woman she might have been, the voice she didn't use, the self she postponed. Many women realise they spent their most formative decades being adaptable rather than expressed, loyal rather than honest, strong rather than seen. And here's the part that's hard to say out loud. Provision is not the same as intimacy. Stability is not the same as emotional safety, and life that looks good on paper can still feel hollow if someone has been quietly disappearing inside it. Later life brings a particular kind of clarity. It strips away the fantasy that there will always be more time to fix things, to be happier later, to finally be yourself once the next phase arrives. There is no next phase waiting to rescue you. There is only now. So when a woman says, I can't stand him anymore, it often doesn't mean she hates him. It means her nervous system is exhausted. It means her body no longer wants to perform tolerance. It means the emotional cost of staying has finally exceeded the fear of leaving. And this is also why these decisions can feel sudden to others, but inevitable to her. She's been thinking about this for years, not consciously, not in words, but in sensations, in the tightness in her chest, in the irritation that feels disproportionate, in the quiet resentment that surprises her, in the longing she doesn't know where to place. And marriage, interestingly, can sometimes be the tipping point rather than the solution. When couples marry later in life, after decades together, it can bring up unexpected grief. The commitment feels final in the way that it removes the last illusion of choice. For some women, marriage doesn't feel like a new beginning. It feels like the door closing on any alternative life they might have imagined. There's also a cultural shift happening. Women in their 60s today are not the women their mothers were at 60. They have more financial literacy, more social permission, more language for emotional truth. They have seen peers leave and survive. They know that loneliness exists inside marriages too. And perhaps most importantly, many of these women are not leaving in search of happiness. They are leaving in search of peace. Peace is different. Peace is quieter. It's the absence of self-betrayal. It's not having to explain away your own feelings. It's waking up without a low-grade sensation of irritation or sadness that you've learned to normalize. Of course, leaving does not magically resolve everything. Grief comes, doubt comes, loneliness can come. Sometimes the anger follows her out of the door. Sometimes the pain she thought she was escaping shows up in a different form. But even then, many women say something remarkable. At least this pain is honest. At least this one belongs to me. And that may be the common thread running through all of this. Later life separation is often not about rejection of the partner, but reclaiming of the self. It's not about punishing the past, but refusing to abandon the future, however long or short that future may be. So when we ask why now, the answer is often simple and profound and deeply human. Because now she can no longer afford to disappear. This reflection does not suggest that all late life separations are the same, nor that leaving is always the healthiest outcome. It aims to illuminate the emotional and psychological forces that may be at work beneath decisions that are often misunderstood or oversimplified. Understanding does not require agreement, only compassion. And I thought I would do that video because I've been in touch with quite a few people, I think maybe about 4 or 5 people who've been talking about this intention, or, who suddenly kind of had what they call it, awakening or a aha moment, and thinking to themselves, you know what? I can't take it anymore. But it reminds me also of a friend of mine who committed suicide quite a few years ago. And I remember that was her last words. I can't take it anymore. I didn't take it seriously. I just thought, it meant she was going to leave. But she couldn't see a way out. And she just internalized it so badly that it impacted her decisions. And that's the way she chose how to put an end to it. But we don't want to do that. We want to have a healthy exit if that's the choice you decide to make. A choice where you're conscious, you're patient, you have self-love, and you have self-determination. And you know that what you're doing is best for you, best for your heart, and best for your future. And that's all I've got to really say for now. You have a wonderful day.